Welcome back to Sailing Extreme and the fifth and final instalment of our Channel Islands adventure. In this episode, I take on one last challenge before we leave island life behind us and make the crossing back home. Last time, we sailed from Jersey to Herm, experienced our first taste of wind against tide and tackled some challenging conditions off the Jersey coast. After a peaceful night drying out in Herm Harbour, we set sail for our final Channel Island destination, Alderney. Our route took us through some of the famous Channel Islands tidal races before we arrived safely in Bray Harbour, where we spent 5 nights sheltering from strong winds while taking the opportunity to explore everything Alderney has to offer. We squeezed in some final sightseeing, but despite Alderney's reputation for its wildlife, I never did manage to spot the puffins the island is so well known for. Not wanting to leave without one last adventure, I decide to run the Alderney Coast Path Challenge, a 10-mile circumnavigation around the island. Each waypoint has a letter, and once you've collected them all, they spell out a set of words that earns you a certificate from the Visitors Centre. After working up an appetite, we round off our final evening ashore with a fantastic meal at a local Indian restaurant. What a difference a day makes. Yesterday we had 25 to 30 knots of wind. This morning not a lot of wind, although at high tide, we're now on a fairly spring tide. In the middle of the night we had waves still breaking over the wall, which caused a little bit of swell in the harbour. So although it was a quiet night wind-wise, it wasn't necessarily the most quiet night with water slapping the hulls. But this morning we are going to be crossing back over the channel, back towards home. Hopefully there'll be enough wind just to blow us back in that direction. There might be a little bit of motor sailing to be had a bit later on in the day if the wind does die off. But yeah, not too early start. It's 7 o'clock at the moment, so just been ashore, been to the toilet, got some fresh water. We'll tidy things up a little bit on the boat and then we'll be on our way.
Right, do you want the tack on? Sailing well, and very light breeze. Becky's on the helm. And there is Alderney, just disappearing in the distance.
Luke on breakfast snack duty, peanut butter wrap on its way, something just to sustain us. We quite like peanut butter wrap anyway, but it's quite good boat food. So yeah, that'll be around for a little bit. Might get the coffee on shortly. It's fairly flat out here. Only slight problem at the moment is there's not a huge amount of wind, and our boat speed is currently sometimes overtaking the wind speed, and our apparent wind flicks forward. So 8 knots of boat speed in 8 knots of wind, it's not bad. Well, the wind dropped off to about 5 knots of true wind speed, and our boat speed dropped to around 3.5 knots, and we're just coming up to the shipping lanes. So we've just deployed the iron sail. We've got the autopilot on just for a moment, just to give us a little bit of a break, just whilst we cross the shipping lanes, and then we'll pop our sail back up again. Low boat speed is not a major problem, but just when there's a number of big ships and we were constantly changing course to try and keep our apparent wind, it doesn't make it easy for either of us to quite know where we're crossing one another before or astern. But hopefully just a short period of motoring, and then we'll pop the sail back up. We're now threading our way through the west-going shipping lane, and the wind's filled in a little bit, and we've got fairly consistent boat speeds of 7 to 8 knots. So staying under sail for this one, and we've got reasonable wind, waves and tide all in the right direction, which is a very nice combination to have. Just keeping a close eye on these. I think we'll be going, they've just changed course I think to allow us to go forward of them, and then we'll go astern of this other boat ahead. We're about 2/3 of the way back across the channel, heading towards Studland for this evening. We were downwind and then the wind cancelled out and it's now shifted round, so we've got a slightly more easterly wind. So we're now under Main and Genoa. Still not a huge amount of wind, but we're going along around about 5 knots of boat speed. So it's better than motor sailing. And fingers crossed this wind holds out and possibly builds a little bit as we get closer in towards land. Where have you gone? There you are.
We treated to a brief glimpse of a dolphin, although sadly it wasn't interested in coming over to ride our bow wave.
Well, we're within touching distance of land. It's been a bit of a long passage. The first half was slow, but with the wind that we did have, we were making probably the wind speed with boat speed, and not too bad. The wind then changed to easterly, and the forecast was for it to build maybe 7 to 10 knots of breeze, but that has now turned into 5 knots from a much more northerly direction, which was not on any of the forecasts. So we've just down to 3 knots of wind. So we've just spent the last 2 hours with the motor on, motoring into wind and tide, which hasn't been ideal. So we've decided to come into Swanage, and we'll pick up a mooring buoy in Swanage and then head home from Swanage tomorrow. It's a nice evening. It's been lovely, flat calm on the water, so we've had a sausage supper. Yeah, it's been perfectly pleasant, just a little bit on the long side.
But equally a nice crossing, not difficult.
No, with the auto helm on. It's the first time actually we've used the auto helm for any prolonged period of time. So we've had stints of just having that on and been able just to enjoy the ride. So all in all, not a bad crossing. Good job.
closer in. Yeah, it says text Mike.
Just leaving Swanage. We've just been ashore, had some breakfast, and it's almost the last stop of our adventure, but we're heading around the corner into Studland, planning just to put the picnic anchor in and sit there, have a swim, and hopefully tighten our water stays. We go into fairly shallow water, we're on a rising tide, and then with the last bit of rising tide we'll make our way back to Christchurch this afternoon, so we've got a few hours just to spare. Luke's gone full Hawaiian. The sun and the temperature has suddenly risen here, so that probably explains the slightly light winds yesterday and over the next few days. So we timed our return fairly well, and means we've got a couple of days just to tidy up the boat and give it a good clean before we have to unfortunately return back to reality. But yeah, eking out the most of today by just spending the day in shallow water, and hopefully if we can get the water stays tightened, we'll show you a little bit about that later on. So these are water stays, and the main purpose of these, they go from the main hull to the armour, and they're what provide the downforce to stop the armour from rising, which if a little bit too slack, things move a bit too much.
But only slightly, so just need slight adjustment.
A turn and a half is probably sufficient. So it's got a split pin that just secures the main pin through the fitting there, and then it's just a case of taking that out and giving it a turn. There's one at the stern, another at the bow, and then hopefully everything should just feel a little bit more stiff. Yes, I'd say so. That's one water stay done. This is the easiest way to do it in about knee-high water, because the armours need to go in and out to give enough slack. And this is not a bad setting to do this, where we can come in fairly close to the beach. And we're on a rising tide, so it should be done in the next 15-20 minutes. So Luke's just finishing off the water stays, but just putting the split pins back in, and that armour just then needs folding out fully. We've used our little picnic anchor for the first time today, which has got a weighted rope and then a little lightweight fortress anchor, which is just well dug into the sand down there. Only got a small amount of scope out because we're only in knee-deep water and it's light wind, but it's quite a nice little anchor that we just keep stowed in the bow. The other one, the larger Vulcan anchor, is kept in the armour. But that's the water stays done, and now my job is to just give the water lines a quick scrub. There's not too much weed or fouling on them, just a little bit of grime, so we might as well do that whilst we're in knee-deep water, and then it'll be time to head home. A few boats on mooring buoys here, and there's a big fleet of boats, I'm not sure if it will come out on the camera, out in the distance there, which is a large regatta that's come out of Poole Harbour. So we know a couple of people who are entered into that. We might be able to spot them as we head back home. All done?
All done. That noise you can hear, it's Becky doing some scrubbing.
Yes, viewers, take note. This is the second time I've been cleaning the holes. Have you seen Luke clean the holes? Not yet.
It's not my job.
While waiting for the tide to turn, we enjoy one final moment of relaxation before continuing our passage.
We just raised the sails on our last leg of this little adventure. We're heading from Studland back towards Christchurch. There was a little bit of wind, it's now just died off, but hopefully there'll be enough for us just to sail home.
Got about 5 knots.
Yeah, it would be nice to finish on a nice sail. We're just heading up towards the race fleet here. We'll see if we can spot one of our fellow Christchurch boats in the fleet and say hello to them, and then we'll be heading straight back to Christchurch. And it's looking a little bit hazy over the land, but this morning it's been nice and sunny. We've been for a swim.
Yeah, very nice.
Had our nature's bath, and once we get back we'll have a couple of days just to tidy up the boat. Would we go to the Channel Islands again?
Yeah.
I think we would. It'd be nice if we were saying if there was slightly lighter winds and more settled weather, we would have probably liked to have explored some of the anchorages a bit more, but first time exploring.
And also some really weird northeasterly winds, which is not that normal for them.
No, so that excluded quite a few of the nice anchorages that people would normally go to. But yeah, all in all, good channel crossings. Only slight incident with the spinnaker on the way out, no major incidents on the way back. We're looking, there might be an opportunity for us to cross the channel again a bit later on this summer, maybe spend a bit of time in Cherbourg and surrounding areas, so we'll maybe plan that in the coming months. The boat's held up well, I think it's been alright. Needs a little bit of a clean and a good wash down, where everything's a bit salty, but considering we spent 3 weeks on board, I think we've done alright.
Yeah, we've worked out, we've had 2 meals out, and the rest we've done boat meals, barbecues,
Yeah, good variety of meals on board, which has been nice. We've got the 2 gas burner, but that's been sufficient. We haven't got a fridge, and I was hoping that maybe a few more marinas and ports would have freezer facilities, a little bit like campsites, but apparently not. So we did come across one person who kindly took our freezer blocks home for us to freeze them overnight. But aside from that, we've not been far from a shop where we can get fresh food. So actually we've still had some really nice food, and we've just bought what we've needed day by day, which in some ways has been quite nice because we've just then chosen what we fancy on the day. What else? Living accommodation's been okay. We've sussed out how to use the storage a bit more effectively on the boat, so we've made use of the big rear locker down underneath Luke's feet. So we've got the barbecue in there, we stow the outboard in there.
Solar panel.
Solar panel,
We've not hooked up to the electric for the whole time we've been away. We've used solar panel, which is doing our bit for the environment.
Yeah, that, and we've got a Bluetti power bank, so we just top that up. And yeah, even though we didn't have wall-to-wall sunshine, we had enough sun that we just kept that topped up day by day. Our waste tank has still only been used for pee. It's not an absolute rule, but we said that we'd try and just put pee down the heads and nothing else, and we've not been so far from a toilet that's not been possible. So yeah, all in all, it's been a good boat to go away on. So lots more planned for the rest of the summer. It's still really early on in the season considering, but yeah, to have 3 weeks away for us has been a real luxury. So here's hoping we just have enough breeze to head us back towards home. But we'll do a little bit of filming of the race fleet as we go through. There's quite a few big boats out here. Looks like a nice mix of boats.
They look like there's slightly more wind. We've got 3 knots of breeze here.
Yeah, it's definitely patchy.
We catch the start of one of the races before enjoying a pleasant sail all the way back to Christchurch. And with that, our Channel Islands adventure comes to an end. It was an unforgettable trip, filled with challenging sailing, stunning scenery, and plenty of memorable experiences. But the adventure doesn't stop there. Shortly after returning home, we decided to swap cruising for racing by entering the Mokra Nationals, so make sure you stay tuned for the next chapter on Sailing Extreme.